Hello, hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. This is the 5th episode of Season 1, where I will be narrating for you the young adult romance Blemished Beauty by Brenda Hodnett, which, by the way, you can buy the printed copy of on Amazon. This is Chapter 5. Here we go. Chapter 5, Fantasy Girlfriend. Tom woke up to Jenny's singing. She sounded like an angel, her voice as clear as crystal. Tom lay awake for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling and listening to her voice. Then the smell of eggs and sausage tempted him so much he abruptly jumped out of bed. He opened his small suitcase to retrieve a shirt but found it empty. He slid open his closet and saw his shirts hanging there. Had Ma stayed up late to iron his clothes? He must have been quite the sight last night. He changed quickly. The delicious smell from the kitchen lured him down the long staircase. He paused as he passed the family room where Jenny was still practicing. He leaned against the wall until she stopped to look at him. "Do I sound that bad?" she asked him. Tom laughed. "You sound beautiful, sis. Are you really going to sing for the funeral?" "Well, I'm on the program, but I don't know if I'll get through it. I always lose it when I get to the words, 'when we shall be forever with the Lord.'" Jenny choked on the last word. Tom stepped towards her and hugged her closely. "You know Pa would want you to sing," he said softly. "What if I can't?" she wept. "What if I cry the whole time?" "I'll say a prayer for you," said Tom. Jenny pulled back to look at him. "Did you just say that?" Tom pulled his eyebrows together and stared at his sister. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Tom licked his lips. He knew he was messed up, but did his sister really think he had given up praying? "It's fine," he finally said. "So was it you or Ma who ironed my shirts last night?" Tom asked. "It wasn't me," said Jenny, wiping her eyes. "It was Aunt Mira." Tom and Jenny turned to see their mother coming down the stairs in her nightgown. "I went to bed right after we talked, Tom. Aunt Mira has taken care of most everything this week. Now let's not let the breakfast she made for us wait any longer," she urged, motioning for them to follow her into the kitchen. "Good morning, Diane," Aunt Mira said to Tom's mother. "Tom, it's good to see you again. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk last night," she said, pulling him in for a hug. "No need to apologize. Thanks for everything, Aunt Mira," he said, giving her a kiss on the cheek. "Y'all have enough to worry about right now," she commented sympathetically, as they all took their places at the table. Sammy was already sitting down, his eyes fixed on the steaming sausages. After a few minutes of silent eating, Tom decided this was a good time as any to announce his plans. "I'm gonna go back to college next year." Forks stopped moving, and all eyes fell on Tom. He scanned each of their faces and looked back to his plate, buttering his toast. "They probably won't give me a scholarship again, but I'd like to go back." Ma spoke up first. "That's an excellent plan, Thomas." "I'll be living at home now, so I can help take care of things." Ma spoke up again, but this time sternly. "Son, you can't break your job contract. It's not over until the spring." "I know that, Ma," Tom calmly said as he dished up some more eggs and set the serving bowl down in the middle of the table. "I also can't leave you here alone right after. You're my priority. Besides, I'm 25. It's about time I stepped up to the plate." "You mean sat at the plate?" Sammy interjected. Tom flashed his brother a grin. "It's just an expression," he clarified. "She's not alone. I'm here. I can help," Jenny noted. "You're in school and you have your dancing and music and 20 boyfriends. So, I will stay. Someone needs to be here to chop wood at the very least," Tom declared, taking a bite of his toast. "We have a heating system, Tom," Jenny announced. "Pa hasn't, we haven't needed wood for a year now." "Yes, Tom," Ma confirmed. "You're very thoughtful, but we will be fine. No need to forfeit your employment." Tom took a drink of orange juice before he spoke.
Pa is gone. It's my responsibility to take care of you now. I'm staying." Tom could feel his mother's gaze on him. It was one of those severe expressions, so he refused to look back at her. "Son, you look at me," Ma demanded. "Here it comes." Tom turned to look at his mother. "Do you really think I am so old and decrepit I cannot find a job or cook and clean and shop and drive or even chop wood by myself?" she asked, trying to keep her voice even. Tom swallowed. His ma worked harder than any person alive. "I'm not saying that, Ma. I'm just—" "You will not lose this job and all that money because of me," Mom said firmly, pointing a finger at him. "Do you hear me?" Tom grimaced. His mother was serious. He could find no way of changing her mind, but he had to try. "It's not right, Ma. I won't be able to live with myself knowing you and Jenny and Sammy are without—" Ma took a shaky breath and put a comforting hand on his arm. "You don't need to save the world, Thomas," she told him, "especially since we don't need saving." Tom bit his lip and sighed heavily. "Well, I do need to go back to the cabin after the storm is over so I can bring Daphne back. But then—" "Who's Daphne?" Jenny cut in. "You have a new girlfriend?" she exclaimed, her face suddenly lighting up. "No, Jenny," Tom shot back as he stabbed another sausage with his fork. "Is she pretty? What does she look like?" she asked, leaning toward him from across the table. I barely know her. I found her 2 nights ago, a few yards from the cabin. She was hurt and lost. After the storm clears, I'll take her back to the university." "Broxville University?" Jenny wondered. Tom nodded. "So that's why you want to go back to college," Jenny assumed. She was nearly bouncing on her chair. Tom opened his mouth to deny it, but he remembered it was Daphne who sparked his interest in it again, so instead he filled his mouth with eggs. Tom looked up from his plate. He could see the load of questions on every face. "Why didn't you bring her back with you this time?" his ma said. "I'm surprised you left her alone." "I didn't want to risk both our lives in the blizzard. Daphne pulled a muscle in her leg and she can't walk on it yet. She's not very heavy, but I wouldn't be able to carry her 50 miles if the snowmobile got stuck," Tom explained.
"How do you know she's not that heavy? Have you danced with her?" Jenny asked with an excited grin.
Tom chuckled and shook his head. "She looks like you, that's how I know," he told her. "Ah, so she is pretty," Aunt Mira interjected with a smile, giving Jenny a wink. Tom glanced at his sister's truly pretty face. "Nobody's as pretty as my sis." Jenny just scowled.
"That means you're not in love with her."
This time Tom laughed out loud. "I highly doubt that's in the future, Jen. I'm just helping the poor girl out." "Why do you want to go back for her if you don't—" "Because he's a nice boy, Jennifer," interrupted Ma. "Now leave your brother alone." "Why was she out there all alone anyway?" asked Sammy. Tom turned to look at his brother. "She made a not-so-good choice to go cross-country skiing," he explained. "Oh," Jenny exclaimed slowly, drawing out the word. "A tomboy. Or should I say, a tom girl. Get it? She's a tom girl." Sammy let out a guttural laugh, showing all the sausage in his mouth. Jenny joined in the laughter, and the others couldn't help smiling, including Tom. It had been a long time since he heard that terrible joke. The quiet was unbearable with Tom gone. How did he stand this dreadful, lonely silence all the time? What would Daphne do here for 2 weeks all by herself? She wanted to do something for Tom, but what? She could clean and do the laundry, but standing up became very painful after a few minutes. She wanted to write in her journal. Maybe she could find an empty notebook somewhere. Daphne hobbled down the hall with her crutches and into Tom's bedroom. Surely some extra blank paper was around here somewhere. She scanned the room for something spiral-bound, and her eyes rested on some large photo albums. Curiosity got the best of her, and she clunked her way over to the shelf where the albums rested. She tilted her head to read the titles printed on their spines. Family Pictures, 2008 to 2013. Was Tom a memory keeper? She found a few more albums with the same title but different dates. Then she spotted something much more interesting. The Life of Tom Moulton. Daphne quickly snatched the album from its place and opened it to the first page. Dear Tom, I hope you like this. Your loving sister, Jenny. Daphne flipped through some more pages. The book began with Tom as an infant. His hair was already a curly red. Holding him was a beautiful brunette with big brown eyes, and standing beside them was a man with red hair like Tom's, but with a little more brown in it. Daphne smiled at the lovely photo. She flipped through more pages and found an abundance of pictures of Tom's childhood. She was surprised to see how short he had been for so many years. Many of the pictures were of Tom and his father doing carpentry work together. She was astounded at all the beautiful furniture they had built. She recognized some of the pieces from the cabin. She also found some photos of Tom and his dad fishing, and some very thrilling photos of Tom jumping off a cliff into a lake. Daphne grinned at the picture of Tom doing a spread eagle into the water, with what looked like a wide, open-mouthed scream. Then there were some more subdued photos of Tom, sitting with his mom on a porch swing. The older he got in the book, the more pictures of friends there were, and the very last page was Tom with another woman. They were facing each other, arms around each other and heads together. The background was a beautiful orange sunset. It was quite breathtaking, actually. Beneath the picture was Jenny's handwriting again. And now you are on to your future life. Make it as good as your life before. Tom is engaged? What on earth was he doing here without his fiancée? Would he bring her back with him? Daphne stared at the bedroom wall for a long moment. She flipped back through some more pages. Suddenly, she knew what she could do for Tom. She hopped to his computer and did a search to see what software programs he had. Yes, he had it. Daphne sat down at the computer desk and got to work. Tom sat in an oversized cotton chair in the living room of his mother's home, listening contentedly to Jenny's music on the shiny black baby grand piano, which filled much of the space in the room. He was holding a picture of his mother and father in his hands. His father was wearing a navy uniform, and his mother wore a deep purple blouse. Her dark hair was curly as it flowed just past her neck. His mom must have wondered if she would ever see him again before he headed out to sea. "We will see him again, you know." Tom looked up at his mother, who had been watching him from the entryway. "How does she know what I'm thinking?" Tom tried to smile, but failed. "I know that, Ma. I can't stop thinking of his casket stuck in that memorial facility." Ma nodded and walked over to sit in another large chair next to him. "You've been wonderful to me this past week, Tom. You've done everything your father would have done and more." Tom smiled and put a hand on his mother's knee. "It's good to be home, Ma." His ma smiled back and clasped her son's hand in her own. "I think you should head back to the cabin today. There's a lull in the storm. Look how beautiful it is outside." Tom glanced out the window into the dim light that would only last the hour. Every white branch and bush outside looked as calm as could be. "It will be safer to go when the snow goes down, Ma," Tom noted. "Yes, I know, but another blizzard is due tonight. News reports say once the storm hits, all the roads headed north will be closed for another month." "What? I thought the storm was supposed to have passed by now." Ma shook her head. "The weather changed its mind." Tom sighed and began rubbing his mouth in thought. "You should leave today," Mother pressed. "You'll miss out on a lot of money if you don't hunt anything until then." Tom sighed again and leaned back in his chair. His mother was right. "Your girlfriend might worry about you," Jenny teased as she continued her Chopin prelude. Even with her music playing, Tom had forgotten she was in the room. "I do need to get some things for Daphne before I go," Tom said, ignoring Jenny's comment. Jenny's fingers suddenly stopped. "I'll go with you," she cried excitedly. "I'm sure you have no idea how to buy for a girl." "No way! You will pester me the entire time," Tom protested, only a tad sarcastically. "Please, Tom," Jenny begged. "I need the diversion, please." Tom glanced at his sister a moment. She did look somewhat troubled. "All right, I'd love the company," he said with a small smile. "You two better hurry so Tom can beat the blizzard," Ma advised. Tom was in the checkout line waiting to buy a load of girl items. He was sure it would be the talk of the small town, but he still felt too empty inside over Pa to even give it a second thought. "What color of skin does Daphne have?" whispered Jenny. "I don't know. Why does that matter?" Tom inquired. "Just tell me, light skin, dark skin?" Is it rude to say her face was mostly red? Sort of in between. So what? Jenny gave him a brief, puzzling look, and then ran off in another direction. Tom sighed. Jenny was part of the reason he had bought so much. What was she getting now? Jenny was gone a few minutes, but it didn't matter as the checkout line was taking an eternity. Tom had just made it to the register when Jenny came back with tiny plastic circles in her hands and 2 small brushes. "What is that?" he wondered. "Foundation and powder," Jenny replied. "Are ye sculpting something?" Jenny laughed at that. "It's makeup, Tom, for your girlfriend." Tom saw the cashier look their way and raise her eyebrows. Tom groaned out loud. "Jenny, I don't even know if she likes makeup," he said to her in hushed tones. Jenny slapped him on the shoulder. "Aha! So she is your girlfriend." Tom huffed in frustration. Normally he liked to play this kind of game with her in front of a small-town gossip, but not today. "Jenny, I've only known her for a week," he muttered. The cashier's eyes widened, and so did Jenny's grin. Tom rolled his eyes. That was definitely the wrong thing to say. "Come on," Jenny pleaded. "Why wouldn't she like it? I think I got a good color." "It's not about the color," Tom argued. "She doesn't need it and may not want it, and possibly be insulted by it." "Is there anything else?" asked the cashier. Jenny promptly placed 2 small tubes on the counter, 1 black, 1 pink. "Now what are those things?" Tom asked, feeling more irritated by the moment. "Mascara and lipstick, Tom. I'm sure you've heard of those things." "Jenny," Tom chided as he ran a hand through his hair. "I'll pay for it if that's the problem," claimed his sister. "With your money or Ma's?" Tom questioned, scolding with his eyes. Jenny shrugged. "I don't have a job. Show choir takes up all my spare time." Tom groaned under his breath. "How much is it?" he asked the cashier. He didn't even hear what she said as he slid his debit card through the slot. Tom ignored Jenny's bouncing steps on the way to their pickup. "Pa would be proud of what you're doing for this poor girlfriend of yours," Jenny said after they climbed into the truck's cab. "Jenny, stop calling her my girlfriend," Tom reprimanded. "And don't insult me by saying such a small thing would make Pa proud." Jenny slammed her door shut, suddenly mad. "How dare you? You said in that eulogy of yours it was all the small things that made Pa great. Are you going to insult our father by preaching the opposite?" Jenny was nearly shouting. "Whoa! That's not what I meant, Jen," Tom said, baffled. Jenny ignored him and continued her case. "Pa was amazing, and it was because he didn't care about doing huge, stupid things. He cared about me. That's why he was amazing." Jenny was suddenly crying. Tom turned on the ignition, not knowing what to do with this unexpected outburst. He hadn't seen behavior like this in his sister for years. Jenny was now sobbing while Tom drove out of the store's parking lot. He kept his voice soft when he spoke. "Jen, I would never insult Pa on purpose. All I meant was no matter what I do, I'll never catch up to being as good as he was. That's all I meant." Jenny took a few slow, shaky breaths. "I know. It's just that whenever I had a little problem, I would talk to him about it. And now he's gone. He's not here to talk to. And that's a big problem." Tom blew out a gush of air. "I think I should stay home," he professed. "No!" Jenny blurted out. Then she calmed herself. "I'll be okay. I want to help Ma through this, but I don't know how because I can't deal with it myself, she explained. That doesn't mean you should stay home, she said in a rush. We need the money you'll make. Tom turned his head sharply to look at his sister. You do? Jenny nodded. Pa lost his job last summer. What? Tom interrupted, shocked by this news. Jenny nodded again. He didn't tell you because it was the first time you were on your own 2 feet in a while, and he didn't want to rock the boat. He thought he would have a new job by now. Obviously now he... Anyway, we've been living on savings ever since then. Tom sighed heavily. I'm glad you told me. I'm definitely going back now. I'll write a check before I leave. Good, said Jenny, wiping her eyes. Don't tell Ma I said anything. She doesn't want to worry you because she worries about you enough. There's no need to worry about me, Tom said flatly. Ma will be Ma, Jenny shrugged. I'm sorry I yelled at you. Ever since Pa died, I've been... I don't know. You don't have to explain it to me, Tom sympathized. I understand the feeling. That concludes Chapter 5. I hope you join me next week for Chapter 6, which is called Helpless. If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.